Hey folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, also known as the Shaky Key. Back today with part 2 of your Morse code journey. In other words, if you're sitting there and you're thinking about taking Morse code, what are you going to do? How's it going to unfold? What are you going to be exposed to? What may you try out? So it's a journey, and I always use that expression, it's a journey. So in part 1, we looked at the importance of you doing your homework, doing your research, finding out who teaches Morse code, which groups, which clubs, which organization, checking them out in detail. Do they meet your aims? Do they use the equipment that you have or that you would prefer to use? All those different things that will, point you in a certain direction. And I know many of you will decide, we're just going to do this on our own. This is pretty easy. That was my approach about 3 years ago. I think it is at this point, somewhere around 3 years ago anyways. That was my approach to it. So this video is really geared for those people who are thinking about taking Morse code, or maybe they've just started. But really for those looking at it, researching, should they or shouldn't they? Now, many of you will be like I was. You maybe took Morse code back, I don't know, late 70s, 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. In my case, it was about 33 years before I came back to it, 35 years, whatever. And you look at it and you say, well, I took this once. This is going to be pretty easy stuff. I can tell you it's not. The teaching methods are very different now. They're actually quite interesting. I would say between what I learned previously and how I learned this time around, this is a lot more fun. Obviously a lot more fun. But if you think you're just going to breeze through it because you took it 20 or 30 years ago, you're not. It's going to be a grind, just like it was back then. You're going to have to set that practice time aside and so on. And if you've never taken Morse code, then it's going to be really exciting. And like I say, the teaching methods are so different now compared to what they were many years ago. You're probably going to enjoy the journey, quite a bit. Lots of different things to try, lots of different programs to try, exercises to try, and so on. Because right now, most of what you're going to learn is going to be on a computer, or it's going to be on an app on your phone. Very different to the way we learned back in the 80s and 90s. So your journey is underway. You've picked what you want to do, and maybe you've picked the organization that you want to use. You've done your research. And every organization out there, some of their teaching techniques may be a little different to others. But if you persevere and stick to it, you're going to get on the air with them. It's as simple as that. You can do it. You will do it if you put the time in. Time and consistency. Practice, practice, practice. That's really what you're facing. So if you've done your homework, you have X number of minutes or hours a day to do Morse code, practice Morse code, then you're ready to hit the decks running type of thing. And that really is the main reason for doing your research that I mentioned in part 1. Get yourself comfortable, be prepared. Now we're into the practice. Remember, everything is computers now. Computers are apps on your phone. They send perfect code all the time. And it's a little deceiving because, you get used to listening to a computer send you code. And it's so sharp and easy to understand, perfect spacing and so on, perfect letter form. Keep in mind, you need to put some time in listening to Morse code on the air as well. It's going to be very different when you hear it on the air. You're going to hear it very different when someone sends you Morse code using their own fist or their own techniques. All things that you need to pay attention to. Certainly this part of your journey will be the hardest part, maybe the most frustrating part for many of you. So I ask you, think back to when you first learned to drive a car. All right, assuming you have at this point. Think about your first few times sitting behind the wheel, maybe with a friend showing you, maybe with a driving school. Learning how to turn the car on, learning how to drive, learning how to steer the car, stay in the center of the lane, learn how to make your turns. all those different things you were taught. And yes, for some of us old timers, how to shift gears. You didn't just hop in and go. It's the same with learning Morse code. It's a little bit at a time. And every time you do it, every time you repeat and you practice, you get a little bit better. So don't think you have to just breeze through this and you're going to learn it in a month or 2 months. That's really not very realistic for most people. Everybody learns at their own pace. Everybody learns at their own speed. So if I use that example with some of my students, now I do, and I always disclose, I teach for the Long Island CW Club, one of the beginner classes. I look at the students who are starting there. I look at what they're going to learn with myself, what they're going to learn at the next level. And you're looking somewhere 16 to 20 weeks of taking classes. It's a time commitment that you have to be prepared to make. Can you do it faster than that? Quite possible. But that's a realistic time. For myself, it was realistic as well, because it took me about, 10 months on my own, because I wasn't very consistent and it was pretty hit and miss. And then once I sat down and I actually got busy into a class, it took me about 4 or 5 months to get into that point where I was going on the air. So, add it up. It takes time. The key thing is your practice, and consistent practice, and doing the homework, if you want to call it that, because practice is almost homework. You also have to remember that you can't breeze through certain letters, especially if you took them a few years back. All your letters, all your numbers deserve equal time, equal practice. Because what will happen is, and it happened to me because I did it, like I say, I always say, if you want to know how to make a mistake learning Morse code, talk to me. I breezed through a few of the letters and a few of the numbers because I was getting anxious and I just wanted to get on the air. What letters and numbers do you think bite me now when I'm on the air? The ones that I didn't put the practice time in. So you cannot overlearn the alphabet or your numbers. Practice, practice, practice. And yeah, sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's frustrating, but you will get there. Everybody learns at their own speed. The speed that you learn at will not necessarily be the same as your buddy. If it's a husband and wife taking it, one of you may learn faster than the other. Nothing wrong with that. You will still complete your journey. You will still get on the air. Don't worry about it. Now, again, depending on the teaching method you decided to use, if you're using some of the big clubs or organizations, you'll be on Zoom, right? You'll be doing classes by Zoom with who knows how many other people. You'll have a chance to listen to other people send Morse code along with yourself when you practice. You'll be able to ask questions. You may have them ask a question that helps you. One of the other advantages to using a class as opposed to doing it on your own. Students ask questions and you may have that exact same issue. So when the instructor explains how that person can handle the issue, you have an answer to your own question as well. And I think instructors in general, and every instructor out there has a different teaching style, different technique, different way of presenting things. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. We all teach different ways. I know when I do my classes, and like I said, I do teach for LICW, I like to take the individual letters that we're doing that day and show them why that letter is important. Where does it fit into Morse code in the real world? So for instance, maybe I'm doing the letter R today. And yes, they learn the sound. They learn to recognize the sound. But at the same time, I want them to know why they're learning that letter R, besides just it's another letter in the alphabet. You can tell them, it's used in RST. It's used for Roger, Roger, and so on. It's a way to try and make that letter come alive to the student. They're not just learning it because we're telling you have to know what the letter R sounds like. There's a reason for doing it, because down the road you're going to need it. So it just changes your perspective a little bit. I think also you're going to find that if you're learning Morse code now, it's all by sound, right? It's recognizing the sound, the rhythm pattern, and how quickly you can do that. If you're like me, when you first learned, many of you memorized. You counted dits and dahs. So, D-dah, oh yeah, that's a dot and a dash, that's the letter A. You don't do that anymore. And yeah, I've seen the videos, learn Morse code in four hours or whatever. No further comment necessary. Recognizing the sound of them. And that's part of what it's all about. You get better and better at recognizing the sound and the sound pattern. And the letters will come to you over time. There will be combinations of letters maybe that give you a rough time. I still have two that I rushed, right? The letter J and the letter W. They still give me trouble to this day. I have to really listen for those particular letters. So you're going to have some, and they'll frustrate you. Doesn't mean you should quit. There's a whole world of Morse code out there waiting for you, so don't quit because one or two letters get you down. You will reach what we call a plateau, where all of a sudden, you've been learning and it's just been going great. And then it's like you hit a brick wall and nothing seems to go in. And a lot of people get frustrated at that point and they quit. You have to understand, we all hit that wall or that plateau. Every one of you will reach it sooner or later. But knowing that helps you to get through it. And you do power through it, and then all of a sudden Morse code flows again and everything's going great. Frustration is the one thing you have to expect in phase 2. You also have to be prepared to overcome it. And a lot of that's going to boil down to your consistent practice. Another issue I find with students, and certainly based on emails and comments I get from, at this point, all over the world, don't get hung up on being perfect. And this is something that's very easy to do, especially when you're on a computer or an app on your phone. It will give you a score in many cases, how you did. So we tend to aim for being 100% consistently all the time. Very difficult to do when you're in the learning phase. So don't get hung up on not getting 100%. You also have to learn, and one of the key things you're going to learn as you go through learning Morse code, especially when you're doing groups of letters, you have to learn to miss. And the expression is miss quickly. In other words, don't sit there and in your brain try and figure out what that letter was. As I always say, put a quick dash, listen for the next letter. And that's something you will learn over time. You'll learn that you don't always have to copy 100% copy code. It's lovely if you do, but in real life, on the bands, listening to people, you're not going to be able to copy everything. Or you may get 70%, 80%, maybe more, maybe less, but you'll still know what that person was sending. And you can always ask for a repeat. Ask them to send something again if you miss something important. I've had a number of individuals write me and, they're watching the videos and they come out and they say something about, I just can't get certain letters. I'm going to quit. I'm too frustrated. And, I can usually have a chat with them or whatever, and we go over it. And I can think of one individual in particular. He was at that point. He was ready to quit. I think he's got over 1,000 contacts this year. So, stick with it. It's not always easy. There will be days when you're going to be totally frustrated. Your practice will help. Go back, start, practice. Keep at it. You will gradually get better. Like I said, think back to driving a car. Did every lesson go perfectly? Were the instructor always patting you on the back and saying, that was wonderful, you were perfect? No. You made mistakes. You learned from the mistakes. Learning Morse code is no different. Celebrate every time you have a good run of letters. Celebrate every time you've done some really good copy work. Because that's what it's all about. The practicing, trying to be as accurate as possible, especially with your sending. Sending practice as you go. Record yourself. So if you're using an exercise on a computer, which a lot of us do, and it's a sending practice one where the computer sends the letter, then you send it, and so on. Record on your cell phone under that memo section. Listen to yourself. See how close your sending was to what the computer said. Because remember, computers always send perfect code. Treat everything as a learning experience. and think as a positive. You made a mistake. You didn't sound as good as the computer. Practice again. You're learning. So treat everything as a positive. And that's absolutely key. Learn to laugh at yourself. I can think of the number of times on the air now I'll make a mistake, and rather than just get frustrated, oh my goodness, how could I make that mistake? How stupid. I laugh at myself and I say, oh my goodness, that was a good one. And then I correct and move on. So learn to look at Morse code like that. It's not life threatening. It's a hobby. Down the road, the more you're on the air, the better you're going to become. Don't worry about your speed. Speed will come as you go forward. It's a journey. It's not snap your fingers. It's not like some of these videos, oh, I can teach you Morse code in 4 hours or 2 hours or whatever the nonsense. It's not like that. It's a journey. It's going to take you time. It's going to take you practice. It's going to take consistency. But every one of you can do it. And remember, we all learn different speeds. Another advantage to taking a program with some organization, especially on Zoom or whatever, is that you get to know some of the other people in your class. I would suggest that you send them an email. I mean, most of them, because they're going to have their call sign there. You can look them up on QRZ. Pick one or two and send them an email and say, hey, I'm in your class. Would you like to become a code buddy? What's a code buddy? Someone that you can link up with, usually through Zoom. It doesn't have to be for hours, maybe 20 minutes at a time. And you can send them back and forth to each other. One person takes some time sending the letters that you both know. The other person copies, and they reverse it, and so on. It does more than just get you used to listening to someone else send Morse code. It gets you used to having another person at the end of your Morse code. Because one of our biggest fears when we're on the air is that the other person's going to laugh at us because we made a mistake. So when you have a code buddy, you have a lot of fun together. You make mistakes together. You get a good laugh together. And you realize it's not threatening. The fact that you sent somebody Morse code and you blew it, you blew a couple of letters, it's not life-threatening. Right? Correct? Go on. So having a code buddy is a wonderful way to get you over some of that fear. It's a wonderful way to encourage you to show up and practice because you've got someone else on the other end waiting for you to sign into the room. So it's an excellent way to do. Pick someone, right? Try and find someone that you can do. Same time zone, it's obviously the easiest. But find a code buddy, someone that you can practice with. And I think you're going to find that will make a world of difference. It will really motivate you. And it will help you when you get ready for the next step, which is to get on the air. So enjoy this part of the journey. It is the most difficult part. But with persistence and practice and a few laughs, you're going to get there. So the next video we'll look at step 3, which is get on the air. We'll look at that a little bit. If you like this video, as I say to everyone, I don't ask you to take out a membership. I don't ask you to buy merchandise. The only thing I get out of making these videos is knowing that I'm helping someone. So if you've enjoyed it, please like, maybe subscribe. YouTube always likes that and sends it on to more people. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you start this journey. And if you're in the middle of this journey and you're frustrated, take it from me. Continue. You're going to get there. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, the Shaky Key. Wishing you the best. 73. Have a great day.